What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Behind the Door podcast. We're here with a good friend of mine, the little Brody, Owen. Excited to hear a little bit about his story and his journey. We're going to talk about juvenile justice today. It's a topic that I don't think we'll ever be able to talk about enough. And I'm going to start kind of a mini-series on juvenile justice with the podcast to talk about some of the work that's going on in Maine to end youth incarceration. And hopefully the work that's going on nationwide to stop believing that putting young people in cages is somehow a good response to stuff we're dealing with in our community. So, Owen, thanks for being here with us today, and pleasure to be here with my co-host Jeremy Hiltz as always.
How you doing?
Owen, introduce yourself to the people listening. Just tell them your name and why do you think that you're on here with us today?
Hi, I'm Owen. I think I'm here today to basically just sum up my story, what I've gone through over the years, and my experience and juvenile justice system in the state of Maine.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Jeremy, you've talked about on the podcast before too. You've got some experience. Your journey into incarceration kind of started with the juvenile system.
Yeah.
How long ago were you in what's now Long Creek, but back then was the Maine Youth Center?
You aged me.
Yeah, yeah, it's
It
important.
was in the 90s.
In the 90s,
Yeah, mid-90s, so it was 30 years.
30 years ago.
Yeah.
Damn, that boy old. Well, I think one of the things that's important to talk about is, just kind of comparing your experience and Owen's experience through, incarceration as a young person. Because we know that things were a lot different back then, but I think a lot of people in society today believe in the myth that like youth incarceration is somehow different. It's more of a school or development center, and it's not a prison. But the reality is actually, if we compare some of the stuff that you went through and what the actual structure looked like compared to some of the things that Owen's been through, that's actually in some ways more of a prison now than it was back then. Even though some of the other things involved with youth incarceration, have quote unquote improved. But Owen, from your perspective, I'm interested just to hear, when was the first time that you got locked up as a young person and went to the Long Creek Youth Development Center?
All right, so basically, yeah, I was just going through a rough time at the time in negative and toxic relationships and stuff. And I ended up thinking it was a good idea to steal a car to go see somebody. I stole a car. I got reported stolen. And the police came to my house and stuff. I thought, everything would be sweet because, beforehand, I've been doing stuff for years, just consistently getting in trouble, But, making it by so I don't get locked up or get sent away, Just give me a summons. I thought shit was sweet. But, no, basically what happened is police came to my house, started talking to me and stuff, and they were like, so basically we got to ring the Long Creek, And I told them and stuff because I was already on probation and stuff because I was supposed to go to Long Creek beforehand. But they just ended up putting me up on probation and do in-home supports and case management and stuff like that. I wasn't doing anything like that. So they called my probation officer, and basically he had no choice, He's got me out of enough, So, yeah, I got sent to Long Creek. First time I was there, it was probably 4.5 months, I'd say. But, no, the big thing is, I was stressing out to go, but I knew that there was a lot of people I knew that went there and stuff, so, I probably wasn't as stressed as I should have been. But, for anybody that thinks it's a school and stuff, it's not like that. Anybody that's gone to, jail or prison, it's a modernized jail or prison, There's different, pods and, units and stuff, So there's, Oak. So basically you go there, you get intake, you get strip search, all that. You get your uniform and stuff, and you walk down with them to Oak, and then you get put in your cell. And then when I was there originally, it was time of COVID and stuff. COVID was a real big thing, just popping off. So you get quarantined for 2 weeks. But yeah, so you get put in, like I said, when you first go there, you're detained, so Oak before you get sentenced or have court or anything. So yeah, I'm in there, single cell. 14 days, nothing to do, but anyway, I was using, various substances, so I wasn't feeling great anyway, so I slept most of the time. But still, if you're a young kid, 13, 12, 13, there's 11-year-olds that go there. It really just depends, If you're 11, 12, 13, 14 years old, any age, in general as a juvenile, it's not a great experience, when you could have support and like a different, like if they had like a different, like, you know what I'm saying? I don't know really how to explain it. It's just like rough when you first
How
go.
old were you the first time that you went in?
I think I was just before I turned 14 or like just after I turned 14.
It's like at the oldest, your first experience with Long Creek was 14.
Like 13, 14, yeah.
Yeah. And Jeremy, how old were you the first time you went to Long Creek?
Right around the same age, probably. I was like 14, 15 years old. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just, it's what's amazing to me is that when you're saying that, I just, my youngest son just turned 14 on December 10th. And I just couldn't imagine him being incarcerated and strip searched and all that stuff. You know what I mean? As the perspective of a father or a community member, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
That this is the treatment for a kid who stole a car, who has been like, obviously what he's just talking about was struggling in his life, and like there's a lot of things leading up to this, and it's like, okay, he stole a car, but like does it still make a whole lot of sense? You know what I mean? To put a kid through that, you know what I mean? Like I said, I could compare. Actually, my son's name was Owen, just like Owen, right?
Yeah.
I just can't even imagine like him going into a system being at his age. It doesn't make much sense to me.
Yeah. I think it's interesting to hear, like, when you actually hear the story from young people about what their experience was like, which is something that we don't do enough, right? We don't actually go to young people who have experienced incarceration to talk to them about, you know, what was that experience like for you. But even just hearing you talk about your first experience going in, Owen, is like, to me, raises a bunch of red flags about like things that I don't think people really understand in society. So, you know, you're talking about being 14 years old, you stole a car, the police came to your house, and you get to a facility that's called the development center, and the first thing that's done is you're strip searched. And then the second thing that's done is you're put in a jail cell, and you spend 14 days in there, right? And it's not like you didn't have a TV in there, you didn't have anything to pass the time.
No, it's not like you like you would like go to like a prison, you know what I'm saying? Like when you go to prison, you got commissary, you can get like, well, now you got to be gifted in like a PlayStation, but you can, like, you know what I'm saying, you can probably get your hands on a PlayStation, you get your hands on TV, you got things to do. Now of course you can get books and stuff, but like what kid wants to like sit down and read for the next 14 days until they're out of quarantine and stuff like that? So I don't really think.
Did you have a roommate?
No. And if you're a juvenile,
You were in solitary confinement for 14 days, right?
I mean, yeah, I guess you could say that in a sense, yeah.
I'm guessing about like if you were in that room by yourself and you had really not a whole lot of contact with people.
Yeah, you're allowed out for like every once in a while, like a couple of hours during the day. You know what I mean? They got a TV like in the pod. You know what I'm saying? So you can come out if no one else, because there's like other people in your pod and stuff. Like, because if it's like a lot of kids coming in, you know what I'm saying? If it's overbooked, they don't have as much room. So like you're quarantined. So like if like, you know, like how the pod works, there's multiple cells in the pod and stuff, but there's like a unit, you know what I'm saying, that has like different like pods and stuff. There's like A, B, and C pod. So say if you're like, for instance, like in C pod, but there's other people there but are out of quarantine, you gotta go in your room so they can come out and like back and forth shit, you know what I'm saying? So.
But I mean, also one of the important things to note is like you talked about at the age of 14, like you had already started using substances.
Yeah.
And so you got arrested, went to Long Creek. Like Jeremy said, I mean, literally by the definition, you did get put in solitary confinement your first 2 weeks. You know,
Yeah.
Quarantine, but the reality is that it's
Basically,
solitary confinement. But like you were detoxing at the age of 14 in a jail cell.
Yeah, they don't have like a Suboxone program. They don't have anything. You just got to go through the works. You know what I'm saying? You're locked in. You know what I'm saying? You feel like shit. I don't know how else to explain it. You know what I'm saying? It's not a great time.
And how much interaction did you have with staff like during those 14 days? Like how often were they checking on you? Were they like out your door talking to you? You know, seeing how you feel, like what's going through your mind, how your mental health is, like what was that first 14 days in solitary, you know, like?
So basically, staff come, they do rounds like every hour, you know what I'm saying, or so, like how they're supposed to do it. For the most part, sometimes it's a little bit longer, sometimes it's a little bit less. But the whole thing is like, when you're in your cell and stuff, you got like this like button and stuff that if you need anything, you can press and stuff, right? You be like ringing that button for like 45 minutes before someone's gonna come. You know what I mean?
So it wasn't like, you know, that people weren't coming to your door to ask how you're doing mentally, emotionally, like how you're going through detox, how your body's feeling.
They do like the regular stuff, like saying, oh, they like slide like papers under your door and stuff. Be like, oh, your lawyer said this and that, or like if you got like, cause like it depends if you come on the weekend. If you come on the weekend, you're not gonna have court. But if it's like weekdays and stuff, you know what I'm saying? The next day, like the next 2 days, you're gonna have court. You know what I'm saying? So you come out to court. But like really, besides that, like medical comes like every once in a while. You know what I'm saying? Just to make sure, probably like once a day. You know what I'm saying? Make sure you're not like dying or anything. But yeah, besides that, you don't got really much interaction. If you need something done, the best way to do it is like call somebody else that's there to your door. You know what I'm saying? And then like have them get a staff for you or some shit. So, yeah.
And then Jeremy, for you, because like we do know that back, a couple of years ago when you were there, the main youth center looked a little bit different, right, physically. And so, just to give everybody who's listening some context, like your first time going there, what was the environment like? What was the difference between what it is now versus what it was then?
Well, it was a completely different setting there, right? But it was different in a lot of ways. It's like I don't necessarily think you can compare them, right? But no matter what, we were kids that had like our freedom taken, right? You couldn't really actually be kids, you know what I mean? And then, but it was open. There was no fences around the facility. There were like cottages. They were called cottages, and they had upstairs, downstairs, and there was no locks on the doors and stuff like that, right? In the general area, right? There was like I think 8-9 cottages there, and they would break them up and break us up by like age group, offenses, things like that. You know what I mean? But there was a unit down there that you came into receiving. You'd have to get cleared through medical as well. You know what I mean? Like locked up. And it was like a dungeon back there. You know what I mean? And then there was they called it stew. It was like you get trouble and stuff. That's where you went. That's when they locked you in the cells.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of like. The mentality of the people running it was just a lot. It was very, I don't know. It was mental. There was a lot of mental stuff that was going on for us. You know what I mean? And there was a lot of. I don't necessarily know. There was like fist fights and stuff like that. There was a lot of like, you know what I mean? Like the boot room. We had the boot room over there off the cottage. You know what I'm saying? That's where we used to bang it out. The cop would like watch you for a few minutes before they broke it up. You know what I mean? Like the
almost like
mentality was like different. You know what I'm saying? Like you know what I mean? So there was definitely some differences, but I think the result is all the same. You know what I'm saying? The mental trauma it's all the same. You know what I mean? Like no kid at that age should be incarcerated. You know what I mean? Like there's just no getting around that in my mind.
Yeah, it's interesting because we've been able to talk on the podcast, and obviously, like you and me being, super close friends, we've talked a lot about your experiences, and then some of the other guys that we know in the community who were at the main youth center too. Like we've talked about the experiences, but I'm interested for you, Jeremy, too. Like when was the, after Long Creek, when you got bound over and you were in the adult system, and coming out and kind of cycling in and out. Like when, in your memory, when was the first time that you ever talked about your experience being incarcerated as a youth? Like to just unpack some of that.
Well, for me, it was normal, right? Because like when I was here listening to Owen tell his story a little bit ago, he still got it ingrained in him that he wasn't supposed to be scared, or he was supposed to fit in, or like that was like normal.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's normal for me as a young man, right? Like the trauma was normal. Mm-hmm. The whole thing was like all this life is normal. Like this is how everybody is supposed to, right?
Yeah.
So what's that?
That's you go down that road eventually,
right? And but eventually you start going. Holy shit, like these things aren't actually right. You know what I'm saying? Like this is like actually getting in my way. It wasn't until I was in like treatment and therapy and people. I ended up meeting a lot of people that told me the truth about myself, which I was like a good person and I was gonna be good. You know what I'm saying? Like they you know what I mean? Once that stuff starts to happen, then I start realizing that actually wasn't normal. You know what I mean? Yeah. Right? Like that stuff, the things that I went through, they were not
healthy.
They weren't healthy. Yeah. And the way I react to things aren't healthy. Like, like using anger as a way to like navigate the world is not healthy for me or anybody else. It separates me, you know what I'm saying, from people. Yeah. And that's what I had to start learning. And it wasn't until later on, it gets so ingrained in them for so long. So I'm so proud of Owen for even coming on here talking about all this stuff, because it's not easy. I wouldn't be here at his age talking about this stuff, you know what I'm saying, in a million fucking years.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, it like, just for context, like Owen, I think I met you probably 2 years ago, and I met Owen when I was volunteering inside of Long Creek, just basically going in trying to connect with young people through my story of being incarcerated for 13 years and hoping that shared experience would be something where I could be like a credible person to for these young people to speak to, but also to help young people realize that you don't have to let incarceration define you in a negative way. Like, you can make the most out of it. And so I can still remember, like, when I first met you, Owen, and, we first started talking, and, you were involved in some of the groups that I was doing, and like, to over the last couple of years to see you kind of come out of your shell, but also still struggle with a lot of the things, like in your reentry, coming out, trying to figure all these things out. And I think Jeremy's bringing up a lot of good points that, you condition yourself the same way that I conditioned myself as a, quote unquote grown up when I went to prison to believe like
survival.
Yeah, survival. It is what it is. And I think one of the things that I've spoken with you about, Owen, a lot over the last couple of years is like how important your voice is, right? To actually not just process the things that you've been through, but also to give other people the context about what you've been through and what young people are going through inside of that system. And I think like we're still on that journey of, you finding out how you can use your voice to really like make people know that this is not a healthy system. And so it is like Jeremy said, like, big credit to you for coming on today and talking to us about it, because that takes a lot of courage, you know what I mean, to talk about things that are not so easy to talk about. And, for you, just so people understand, like, you've talked a lot with me over the last couple of years about some of the things that you've been through just in your life in general. But how many times have you been into Long Creek? From that first time when you were 14 to now being 18. Are you 18 or 19? 19. So now being 19, in that 5-year span, how many times did you go inside of Long Creek?
4.
4 times. And what do you think was, after that first time you went, why do you think you couldn't just stay out?
I don't know, you know what I'm saying? So I got out the first time, you know what I'm saying? And like, I don't know. It's just like I was going back to the same shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I ain't really got nobody to like support me, you know what I'm saying? I gotta do what I gotta do to survive. So like, you know what I'm saying? When you're in survival mentality, you don't give a fuck about what anybody says. You're doing this shit for you and nobody else, you know what I'm saying? And like, it was really hard for me to cope with a lot of shit that I was facing too, you know what I'm saying? A lot of like people that I know just like passing away from different shit, you know what I'm saying? My mom not making like a good income and stuff like that. Like, I can't get what I need, you know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna like turn to what I know best to like provide for myself and do what I have to do, you know what I'm saying? So, which for me was selling drugs, you know what I'm saying? Just like doing what I can to survive. But if you're a drug addict, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you struggle with drug use, you know what I'm saying? You got all that in front of you. You're gonna eventually start to use and mask the pain that you're feeling, you know what I'm saying? Make your situation not as bad, whatever it does for you, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I got out. Shit wasn't too good, you know what I'm saying? That relationship I was in before, you know what I mean, wasn't too great, you know what I'm saying? And like, I spiraled, you know what I'm saying? Just like, I don't know. I'm trying to like, yeah, like I said, I just like spiraled and stuff. Was doing more and more, getting more and more in trouble and stuff. And like, I was on probation, right? I was doing dumb, reckless shit. My probation officer was still getting me off because they need permission to arrest me from him before anything. You just need to give him stomachs and stuff. But Yeah, one day the police came, like the second time I got arrested, the police came to my house, showed a photo of what they said was me. It wasn't me, you know what I'm saying? They said I was involved in an armed robbery, which was not the case. I had no, you know what I'm saying? No, I wasn't involved in that at all. But since I was on probation, I'm subject to random search. They did a search, found a gun in my house, you know what I'm saying? Got arrested, you know what I'm saying? Went to Long Creek again. Probably did like 2 or 3 months, maybe a little bit longer, I'm trying to think. And then got out again, you know what I'm saying? And it's just like the same shit. I don't know. I was just going through it. I was hard headed, just doing what I had to do to survive because I had no support. And like, you know what I mean? So just went in and out. And the third time, got pulled over, had a gun in the car, you know what I'm saying? Had drugs in the car. So I went. Fourth time, you know what I'm saying? Got pulled over, had a gun in the car, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, the fourth time I went in and stuff, you know what I'm saying? Is like, it was when I got committed because I was always detained. I was always in and they got let out, in and they got let out. Fourth time, I got detained and stuff. And like, I was just doing my time, serving my time and stuff. But within that time, not from people in Long Creek, you know what I'm saying? They just do the job. But like from like people who came in from the outside, I started to grow more and more support and stuff. Things was good, like, you know what I mean? But when I left Long Creek the fourth time, you know what I'm saying? It was on my 18th birthday. They were supposed to do, like, you know what I'm saying? Supposed to help me out, get stuff. Like, I was supposed to have, like, my apartment right off the go. Like, you know what I'm saying? Transitioning back to the community. Supposed to have everything done, right? It was, like, they really basically, like, couldn't figure out shit. I found an apartment, like, 2 days before. Like, I was stressing out. Like, I thought I was going to be homeless when I got out of Long Creek and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was, like, something that I really was trying to figure out. And in that time, I got my, I was supposed to get my GED. I completed that whole thing, you know what I'm saying? Did all of it, did all the tests and stuff. Still I received my diploma and stuff. So when I got out, I wasn't really set up with the stuff I needed, you know what I'm saying? So once again, you know what I'm saying? I didn't like really like know what else to do. So, you know what I mean? Just started like repeating the same, like, you know what I'm saying? The same behavior, same lifestyle pattern that I was doing before so I could get by and stuff. And that like overtook because that lifestyle itself is an addiction, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're making money, you're doing drugs, you're partying, you're living every day like it's a movie, you know what I'm saying? It's going to catch up to you. It's going to knock you down. You're going to hit rock bottom eventually, even if you think shit's all good. And, like, while I was doing all that, I was surrounding myself with people who didn't have my best interest in that. So, fourth time, you know what I'm saying? Well, the fifth time I got arrested, I ended up going to ACJ because I was an adult, you know what I'm saying? But I was just surrounding myself with negative people, wrong people, people I shouldn't have been chilling around, and people that, like, you know what I'm saying, like, I don't know, I just try to reason with what the person did to me, you know what I'm saying, like, ratting on me and stuff, all that, like, I get it, you know what I'm saying, they're scared in that situation, but that's something that hold deep to me, because I really had love for this person, like, as, like, family, you know what I'm saying, consider this person very close, you know what I mean, so, yeah.
I mean, what I hear you saying is, like, you talk about the 4 times that you were in, and even this 4th time that you got out, and then going into, you know, the county jail as an adult. It's like the theme that I hear you talking about is that every time that you came home, you didn't have the supports in place that you needed to be able to make a change, and you didn't have the people and the community in place that you needed. And then every time you came home, like, you were either returning to the same dysfunctional stuff.
Yeah, and I, like, tried. Like, in the beginning, I tried. It's not like I never tried, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to, like, fucking keep going in and out of jail. I don't think anybody wants that. I don't want my life to be complete shit all the time. You know what I'm saying? Nobody wants that. And even if you're making money, money isn't the root to everything, you know what I'm saying, bro? Like, the key is to be happy and stuff with what you're doing and stuff, you know what I mean? I was miserable the whole time, bro. I was struggling with my own shit, my own demons and stuff. So, yeah, I didn't have any of that support, you know what I mean?
Can I ask you where your dad's been?
But that, oh, yeah, I haven't talked to my dad in years, you know what I'm saying? I don't know what's up with that, but, yeah. Never really been around. And I don't got a good relationship with my mom, so, like, I don't know, you know what I'm saying? You ain't got nobody, like, connect to, talk to, you know what I mean? Family, nothing. Like I got, like, no phone.
The question, how much of this, your life, you're growing up, you felt like it was, like, your fault? Like, if you were a better person, you were a better kid, you did things differently that you wouldn't be in the situations that you were in?
I knew that, like, part of it, like, you know, like, maybe when I was, like, younger, but when I was, like, 10, 11, I realized that most of this shit ain't my fault, you know what I'm saying? I'm, like, and, like, not that I'm, like, not taking responsibility for my own actions, because everybody does stuff, you know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, you gotta take responsibility for yourself, you know what I'm saying? I do something, you know what I mean? There's, like, a result of that, whether it's good, like, positive or negative, you know what I mean? But No, when I was younger, yeah, I kind of struggled with that. But when I realized I was older and stuff, I'm like, it's not my fault that I grew up in the situation that I grew in. You know what I'm saying? It's not my fault that my dad didn't want to be around. He's just like, you know what I'm saying? Can't do that. He doesn't know how to do that. You know what I mean, bro? So, I don't know. I don't really let that shit stress me out. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, I don't know. I went through a lot of hard shit, like a lot of like really like hard shit. But I'm grateful for everything I went through, because if I didn't go through what I went through, I wouldn't be the person I am today. I wouldn't have known the stuff I know today. I wouldn't have the connections I have today. I wouldn't know the people I had today. So,
I mean, it's wild to me to hear like you talk about some of the stuff that you've been through, and how I also hear the needs that Owen had when he was younger, cycling in and out of the system, and even some of the needs that he's identifying now. And I think about like the Recovery Connections of Maine model, right? This idea of connection and community, and how you guys at ARCOM are treating people, you know, with very similar issues. I mean, Owen talked about using substances at, you know, as early as the age of 13, 14 years old.
before that.
Yeah. And so I just like, for me, when you hear him talk, Jeremy, and you're thinking about like what his needs were and what his needs are, it's pretty similar to what you're trying to connect people to in treatment, even if they're 50, right?
Well, what Owen's talking about is like what we talk about in this podcast across the board, is that like trauma is the root of what happened to this young man, right?
Yeah.
Child, there was nobody to take care of him, and then he starts going out. He's talking about not having to survive on his own and make money and take care of himself and buy him, you know, he'd probably school clothes and this and that. And then as a result of not understanding that, we get put into a system. Yeah, it's probably cool that the probation officer didn't lock him up or send him away that time, right? But like, what about like, was treatment and counseling and finding a program that like is going to support him? Was that like part of the deal? Was, just get out?
No, I get released on after programs. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm supposed to do it. But the only way that works, the only way that any counseling, anything like that ever works, is that the person needs to connect to somebody. You know what I'm saying? That's like the whole reason that like people like start doing the shit they do, is like you got no connection, you're all alone. You know what I'm saying? You got no one to tell you right or wrong, and like it's a hard world living for anybody. You know what I'm saying? So you're gonna like, you got to figure out shit for yourself.
And that's really what I'm talking about. It's like no kid at that age should have to figure shit out for themselves.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like, that shouldn't even be a thing. He should not be accustomed to try to figure shit out on his own at fucking 19 years old. I have a son. He just turned 20. He's in college. He is not ready to figure shit out on his own at 20 years old after he's been to school and done everything. You know what I'm saying? He's just like, that's not where we're supposed to be at developmentally, right? Yeah. Well, maybe we are, right? Maybe to some degree, but like, you know, I can remember being you know, in and out that age, and when people my age are like learning how to like, even like you know, like going to prom, right? Or like doing this or doing that. Like I'm like fucking like locked up. You know what I'm saying? Or like I'm supposed to be learning how to
major milestones,
like learning how to progress into the world, right?
Yeah.
That's what the goal is of our children, right? We got to move them forward, right? Not like we can't pick and choose what kids we get, do what kids get picked and move forward. You know what I'm saying? Like just like Owen didn't choose the life that he got given, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like I'm proud of Owen for being able to say like, okay, I'm here right now. I gotta take care. I gotta keep moving forward right now. You know.
Well, that's the thing I think that we forget. Like, number one, you know, I hear Owen talk about the things he's been in trouble for, and in a lot of ways, this is the stuff that like people in society are scared about. Like, oh, young people with guns and you know, these bad kids and all this stuff, like they're dangerous. But like when I hear you talk about your experience, Owen, and about the things that you've been through, and I hear you take responsibility for some of the things that you've done, you know, I appreciate that aspect about you. But at the same time, I feel a little bit differently, like Jeremy's saying. And one of the things that, you know, we're always talking about in this work we're doing to try to end youth incarceration in Maine is like, we're holding Owen responsible and kids like you responsible for things you're doing at 14, 15, 16. And like Jeremy said, we release you and expect you to figure it out. And we might have you on aftercare programs and all that might be true, but like it's on you to figure out who to connect to.
You also put on an aftercare program and the damage has already been done.
Yeah.
The damage I'm talking about is I've already fit into a group of people that are all incarcerated. You know what I'm saying? I've already taken on that identity.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I've already been labeled that already. You know what I'm saying? So that's how we start reacting. So the aftercare program at that point doesn't really, you know.
Well, you respond to that program the same way you respond to the programs on the inside.
But
Probably, right?
him and his buddies figured out how to fucking like work that system over too. Like that's looking how it works. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's be clear, 'cause we learned that already. We learned that in the system. He told us they're like, well, if I need to get something done, I need to knock on the window and get one of my homies to help me out with this. You know what I'm saying?
Staff member.
But we've already developed a network.
Yeah.
We've already developed, like, Owen's part of that network already. So the aftercare pro, how effective is that?
Yeah.
It was just like, we were talking about this on another episode about, like, treatment in prison is never going to, like, work, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, oh yeah, I have to go to this counselor to go based on probation, so I don't have to go back to the youth center.
So you go through the motions.
So it's like, man, I got to go through these motions. And I think what Owen, one of the most important things he says, I didn't have anybody to connect.
Yeah.
He did what he made the point that he said, you know, it's one thing to have the program, but you have to connect to it. That's what he said. You know what I mean?
And I think that's a really important part to talk about that people need to hear, right? Number one, my belief is that it's not your responsibility to find somebody to connect to as a young person who we're letting out of, a carceral state. It's actually my responsibility as a community member and as a member of society to make sure that you have the supports necessary to connect to, right? To make sure that you have the options of what you're going to do. And I think that's one of the conversations that we don't really have enough. And this is also some of the work that Owen is involved with us in doing, with the work that we do at Maine Youth Justice, is really understanding that the only people who know what young people need are young people, but typically they're not the people that we listen to when, they're expressing what their needs are. And for you, Owen, you've got a pretty significant change that has happened recently, right? You went from getting out this last time on your 18th birthday and like you said, trying to figure shit out and, things not going too great, but now you're living in a different environment, right? You're surrounded by different type of supports and you said that for the first time you've been really finding people to connect to and, like some community aspects of your reentry. And how much of a difference has that made for you? Like all these years later, since you first touched the youth system, like where do you feel like you're at right now? Compared to where you were a year ago, and what's made the differences for you?
If it wasn't for me, like, you know what I'm saying? Because, like I said before, I just got an ACJ probably like three months ago, you know what I'm saying? But within that time, you know what I'm saying, I've never done, like, a program like Jeremy's got over at Arcom and stuff, you know what I'm saying? And, like, I don't know. I definitely would be back in jail or dead right now if it wasn't for me being in that program, you know what I'm saying? Because, like I said before, the big thing for me is when I get out of jail, I need support, you know what I'm saying? I need to figure out, you know what I'm saying? If I don't have things, like, you know what I mean? Like, what I need to be able to get by and survive, then how am I supposed to succeed? You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, no, definitely it's been super, 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 super helpful being able to get in community, being, like, held accountable for my actions and stuff, you know what I'm saying? But, like, people actually, like, care. It's not just, like, they're just, like, doing their job and shit. Like, I got, like, 10, 15 people that ask me if I'm okay and if I need anything and, like, you know what I'm saying, how I'm doing every day, you know what I'm saying?
I want people to hear this that are listening, like, now at the age of 19, you're in a position after getting released from an adult county jail where for the first time in your life, you've got 10, 15 people asking you how you're doing every day, holding you accountable for your actions and like really helping guide you, and you're taking the initiative yourself, but like actually kind of steering you in that direction. My question to people that are listening is, why didn't we provide that to you when you were 14, when you were 15, when you were 16, 17, 18? We want to believe that young people who are, acting the way we want them to act, that there's something wrong with them. But you're saying that now you finally have these things in place and it's making a difference for you. And so like my question to you is what is missing from the system when you were 14 and 15 and 16, and you've got a lot of friends that are coming in and out of that system right now, and what do you think is missing for them? Like what is a better alternative than sending you to Long Creek?
A lot of people like my age and younger are just lost, you know what I'm saying? They've gone through like, you know what I'm saying, whatever they've gone through and stuff, and like most of them is like, it's all they know, you know what I'm saying? I don't think anybody like at their life just like sorry, anybody at any part of their life just be like, oh, I want to go do this, do that, and fuck up my whole life type shit. You know what I'm saying? I want to go sit in jail. No one's like that. You know what I'm saying? So like I don't know. I just feel like people need to like realize, especially like juveniles and stuff, is like there's ways to make money legally. Like, you can be hustling, but it can all be illegal. You know what I'm saying? You can provide for yourself. You can get what you want. Do that. And you know what I'm saying? It's just hard work, but if you put in that work, you can get it. I've been able to see that now. You know what I'm saying? Like,
but you've had people in your community that have been able to show you that now,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And so, like, what if instead of bringing you to Long Creek or, you know, arresting you and putting cuffs on you, what if, you know, what if people were identifying what was missing in young people's lives and then filling that void with what was missing to show them exactly what you're saying? You know, you think that if when you were 14 and you stole that car for the first time after getting in a series of trouble, like, what if instead of sending you to a prison and putting you in solitary confinement for 14 days and, you know, then locking you in a jail cell every night, what if you had been hooked up with people in the community that were like, hey, I relate to what you've been through, I understand what you've been through? Like,
yeah, I would have done probably a lot better.
You think you would have cycled in and out the same way that he did?
I can't be for sure yes or no, because like some people just aren't ready to change. I don't like really remember my mindset back then. It was all like a blur and stuff. I was on drugs and stuff. I wasn't as clear-minded and like as I am now. You know what I'm saying? But I think that it could definitely help if you're ready for it.
How many chances do you think you deserve to figure it out and get it right?
Until I get it right, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Like, me personally, like, the main thing that messes with me is that you got like kids and stuff that'll go out and like hurt somebody or kill somebody, and that one decision, that one split decision, that, you know what I'm saying, affects their lives for the rest of their lives. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're like 13 years old, you go shoot somebody out of anger because you don't have the right coping skills, or the right support, or know what to do. You know what I'm saying? And now you're serving your whole life in prison. It shouldn't be like that. You know what I'm saying? You definitely need rehabilitation and support and connection to get through that, and for you to understand the impact of what your actions have done. You know what I'm saying? And how they've affected other people in your community, and why you are feared and like stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like if you go through that process in the right way, and if it's really supported, then rehabilitation can be definitely like a real positive thing that works far better than incarceration.
How many chances do you think people deserve, Jeremy?
Many as it takes.
Many as it takes.
My philosophy on there is no real chances. Right? As long as we have the heartbeat, that's the only chance we got.
Yeah.
But as many as it takes, really, from that context, you know.
And I think that's the important thing that I think people need to take away, like from hearing you share your story, Owen, about what you've been through and things that were missing from your life, but then also things that were, you know, that you encountered with the support that actually made you able to turn things around is really important. But I think, you know, when we believe that as long as you're breathing and your heart's beating, then you got a chance to turn it around. Like, man, if we can't feel that way about kids, if we can't have that mentality about our youth, about our young people, like, what the hell are we doing?
I just want to say, like, it's been like Owen. I met Owen in Long Creek, and Dre had called me to say, you know, this guy's getting out, and you know what I mean. I had gone in there and saw him, and I just want to say that, like, the progress that Owen's made from that day until now, that was like before he ended up going into the jail.
Yeah.
And then, but I've been able to watch him, like I said, from the time, the conversation, your mindset now is much different than it was before when you were in Long Creek, because, you know, just like myself, there was a time when you couldn't tell me nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm you know, what's right for me is right for me, and this is really what I'm doing. And I think, you know, Owen's experiences then to now has like opened him up to a place where he's like can see the need for the connection, right? He sees a need for community, and it's like a pretty beautiful process to watch, and I'm really proud of him.
Yeah. I'm proud of you too, man. As long as I've known you, you've come a very, very far way, and you got, like, you know, all the potential in the world to do whatever you want to do in this life, man. You're super talented, very smart. I think that everybody who's listening today will see, you know, how well spoken you are, thinking about these issues. also heard you take responsibility for your actions a handful of times today, which is something that, like, dude, I know people who've done 15 years in prison and still haven't figured out how to do that, you know, take responsibility for what's theirs, but also give responsibility away for things that aren't theirs, you know, and I heard you do both today. And I think, Owen, like, what I want to hear from you, and what I think the listeners and people who are watching need to hear from you, like, if you could just pick one thing to tell people about why putting young people in prison doesn't work, you know, what's the one message that you'd want to give to people so that they could walk away with from this podcast with?
All right, so basically, if you incarcerate an individual, their brain is not fully like processed. If you're a juvenile, you know what I'm saying? You're you're easily like persuaded and like convinced of things. You know what I'm saying? You meet a lot of connections. You go through a lot of rough shit, and like, I don't know, the trauma like definitely fucks with you. You know what I'm saying? Like eventually, and like if you go through it and stuff, you know what I'm saying, and you see all your homies in there, it brings like that mindset out in you that jail really isn't that bad, and that if this is all that it is to it, why don't I go do something else? You know what I'm saying? That's not learning. You know what I'm saying? That's not like helping people grow. That's not helping people like, you know what I'm saying, learn from the mistakes. You're just getting punished, doing the time, do what you gotta do, and you go home with the same exact mentality. That's why I think that rehabilitation and like actual support and one-on-one counseling and talking about shit so people really get the understanding, really get the grasp of like what's going on, what they're doing, is going to be like a lot more beneficial than just punishing someone, because they're not learning. They're just being punished and doing that time. You know what I'm saying? They're not thinking about it. They're not improving.
So do you think that all those supports and everything that you're talking about, like, do you think it matters as much what it is as it does where you get it at? Is that something that, like, I kind of hear you saying that, but I just want to be clear. So, like, it's not like you can just, I mean, we could give all the supports in the world to you when you're in prison, right? When you're in that setting. But what I hear you saying is that a lot of times it's not going to affect you the way it should in that setting because of all the other things you're dealing with inside of that. So I think that's like a good takeaway for people. Like, it's not just about giving people the supports, because, right, the Department of Corrections wants us to believe that we're giving young people all the supports in the world inside of the youth prisons. But it's, you know, where you get it matters as well. And I think, Jeremy, one thing that I'm interested to hear from you, because you said this earlier, and I think we really should like kind of key in on it. You know, you said you had a son that just turned 14 recently, and you're trying to picture him going in and out of that system, and how difficult that is for you as a father. So I just want to hear from your perspective as a parent, you know, heaven forbid something happens. Like, what do you want your child to have available in the event that they make a mistake and they need to learn from it?
Well, there's no question in my mind that it has to be a therapeutic environment. Like there's something like a kid that age committing a crime or breaking the law, stealing a car, doing something that is really just a symptom of something bigger that's going on in their life. You know what I'm saying? Like when I was that age and I committed a crime, it was because it preceded me, you know, it was after I witnessed domestic violence in my life. It was after, you know what I'm saying? It was like within weeks of those types of things happening in my life. So there has to be a therapeutic environment for kids to be in at that age. You know what I'm saying? At that stage of their life. Like, that's why I don't believe that incarceration works, because you can't create a therapeutic environment in concrete and steel. It just doesn't work.
Yeah. I think that's the important thing that I hope everybody takes away from this episode, is when we talk about issues of juvenile justice and youth incarceration and why we believe that, you know, nationwide youth incarceration has to stop, and why we put so much effort into this, you know, this cause in Maine, is like, we talk about it on the podcast all the time in different ways and different shapes and different forms, but you can't treat trauma with trauma. Mm-hmm. You can't take a young person who didn't choose to be exposed to what they were exposed to in life and reacted to it in a way that, you know, that also wasn't necessarily a choice, and then traumatize them and expect them to heal. And I think, you know, I want to give a big shout out to you, Owen, and thank you for coming on today to really give like a voice and a testament to that. Like, you know, the things I went through growing up didn't heal by throwing me in a cage, right? They didn't heal by putting me around other kids who went through similar things and were experiencing similar reactions to those things. And so what I hope every listener, you know, whether you're in Maine or Alabama, wherever you are, what you take away from this episode is that, like, youth incarceration is not a solution to any problems we have in society, that traumatizing young people in response to the trauma that they've already been through is never going to help the situation. And if you don't take my word for it, take this, courageous young man's word for it right here, who's saying, once I had the supports and once I had the communities I needed, I finally realized that I could actually turn this thing around. And so, Owen, thank you for coming on, man. And Jeremy, always thank you for sharing your experiences too. And, give big shout out to everybody who's listening and supporting the podcast. Keep supporting, keep subscribing, keep downloading. Tell people about the episode, and appreciate you guys for listening in, man. Thank you guys.